beautiful. I've looked at this for 5 hours now.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. TARDIS, and no stream this week as I'm away travelling a lot and working a lot, so I don't have time to do a full stream. However, I wanted to talk about a bunch of Big Finish news stories that dropped over the past couple of days from, least exciting to most exciting, but personally I think all three pieces of news are pretty exciting. Firstly, before we get to any of the stories though, be sure to subscribe in order to keep up to date on all of the upcoming Doctor Who news and all the reviews I've got in the pipeline as well, and also hit the like button because it really helps me out. Anyway, so let's go to the first story, which is a celebratory story for Tom Baker's 50th anniversary as the Fourth Doctor. His debut story, Robot, broadcast in late 1974, so to celebrate the 50th anniversary of that story, Big Finish have announced The Curse of Time, starring Tom Baker, Sadie Miller and Christopher Naylor as the Fourth Doctor, Sarah Jane and Harry Sullivan respectively. This is a story written by Jonathan Morris, who you may remember one of his last releases was Fugitive of the Daleks, which is a First Doctor and Dodo and Vicky story, which was an awful lot of fun, served as a pseudo-sequel to The Chase and a pseudo-prequel to another First Doctor story, but I won't get into those spoilers there. So The Curse of Time, for the 50th anniversary of Tom Baker as the Fourth Doctor. The iconic Tom Baker returns as the Doctor, while Sadie Miller and Christopher Naylor reprise their critically acclaimed performances as companions Sarah Jane and Harry Sullivan. This special 4-part adventure is set immediately after the events of Season 12's final serial, Revenge of the Cybermen, and picks up on a story thread which began in the Ark in Space as the time travellers discover what happened to humanity long after the events of the Sontaran experiment. The synopsis reads, after being dragged through a rip in the time vortex, the TARDIS returns the Doctor, Sarah and Harry to Earth. They are in medieval times, but something strange is afoot. The villagers live in fear of the Sinister Brotherhood, an order of monks that upholds the sacred laws. Then there's Faustus Black with his troupe of travelling players. What connects them is a terrible secret hidden in the Forbidden Forest, a cave from which nobody has ever returned. Producer David Richardson says, The Curse of Time follows on from Revenge of the Cybermen and comes before Terror of the Zygons as the TARDIS is diverted on its way to Scotland. Jonathan Morris has written a smashing tale that fits perfectly into both the Nerva Beacon arc and the Hinchcliffe years. Happy anniversary to the Fourth Doctor. So the Fourth Doctor Adventures at The Curse of Time is available in December 2024 and is available to pre-order on a digital download or a collector's edition CD, which also comes with a download. I've liked a lot of the recent Fourth Doctor range from Big Finish, but it feels like it's been a while since we've had a Fourth Doctor, Sarah and Harry story. I think Sadie Miller and Christopher Naylor are terrific in those roles. Christopher Naylor is currently in the middle of another story arc with the Fourth Doctor, when him and unit agent Naomi, they met up with the Fourth Doctor, then later on they meet up with the Seventh Doctor. Big Finish is a bit of a rabbit hole there, but right now he's currently with the Fourth Doctor, much later on in his timeline. So it's cool that he's going to be getting another back to basic story, Season 12, in fact what could be the actual Season 12 finale, because Revenge of the Cybermen is not a very good finale to that season. Speaking of finales, we finally got news as to what the upcoming Big Finish Once and Future coda would be for their 60th anniversary event. For those of you who don't know, last year for Doctor Who's 60th anniversary they had an event called Once and Future, where the Doctor during the Time War is hit by a degeneration weapon which causes him to fluctuate throughout numerous incarnations as he goes across time and space to try and figure out a way to cure himself and to figure out who fired the gun, where did it come from, etc. And it started with a Fourth Doctor story, then went to the Fifth Doctor with the Curator, Seventh Doctor in the Time War with Davros, Sixth Doctor with Harry Sullivan, Christina D'Souza and Jackie Tyler, of course, 10th Doctor with Missy and the Paternoster Gang. I think this is the best one, by the way. This is also written by Jonathan Morris, who's doing that Fourth Doctor story that we just talked about. This was a really good one. I think, in my opinion, it's the highlight of the range. Then we had the 9th Doctor with the Unbound Doctor for Time Lord Immemorial, then the 8th Doctor, River Song and Susan in The Union, which seemed to wrap up everything more or less in a pretty bow. But now we have this coda chapter, which we've only had a tentative release date for, but we haven't had any official confirmation about who would be in it and what the details were. We finally got that news this week. Once and Future Coda, the final act, written by Tim Foley, who is an incredible Big Finish writer, probably my favourite or one of my favourites at the moment at time of making this video, Once and Future Final Act is going to star Joe Martin as the Fugitive Doctor and Jonathan Carley as the War Doctor, who made an appearance in The Union, which was up until now at least, the final chapter in Once and Future, and Jonathan Carley has just gone from strength to strength as the Big Finish War Doctor. Coda, the final act, is coming out in November 2024. Dealing with the repercussions of degeneration, the Doctor has a limited window of time to evade capture, recruit old allies, wage a war, and find out what's really going on. A warrior is being hunted by a mysterious stranger in the TARDIS. A rogue agent has been assigned a mission to eliminate a dangerous foe. This is a fight between a war criminal and a fugitive, a fight between doctors. And Once and Future Coda has Joe Martin, Jonathan Carley, and also we've got Lisa Bowerman as Bernie Summerfield. Also joining the cast, we've got Imogen Stubbs as Queen Elizabeth. Imogen Stubbs has recently played Patricia McBride in the Sixth Doctor box set quite recently. And we also have the Vord here as well. We also have Chase Masterson as Vienna Salvatore. That's a Big Finish original character who is kind of having a thing right now, an on and off rivalry with Eric Roberts, the Master from the 1996 TV movie. Big Finish is a massive rabbit hole. So yeah, we've known for a while that Joe Martin is going to be appearing in Big Finish box sets starting from January 2025, but this one kind of came right out of the blue in terms of announcements. We had no idea that she was going to be in this particular story. Also, early next year, we're going to be getting Sacha Dhawan as the Spy Master in the Call Me Master range, which starts in February. The prevailing story that I've been told in regards to my sources and people who I talk to at Big Finish is that they could not announce or formally make anything related to the 13th Doctor's era until after Ncuti Gatwa's first season as the 15th Doctor had finished and had been completely broadcast. So now that Empire of Death, at the end of the recent season 1 of Doctor Who was broadcast, it means that they can finally announce stuff with Joe Martin, who is technically a character from the 13th Doctor era created by Chris Chibnall. Same for Call Me Master. That's why these two box sets had a release date a few months after Ncuti Gatwa's first proper season as the Doctor. So it's with that in mind that we come to our third and final story, and the biggest one, Big Finish related for some time, I think. Jodie Whittaker is returning to the role of the Doctor, the 13th Doctor, with Big Finish Productions in partnership with BBC Studios. We also have Mandip Gill returning as Yasmin Khan. The 13th Doctor is back in a new series of 12-hour-long full-cast audio adventures in time and space, due to be released from July 2025. By her side in the TARDIS as ever will be her best friend Yaz, once again played by Mandip Gill. Jodie Whittaker said, "I'm over the moon to be joining Big Finish for more adventures in the TARDIS. Recording the 13th Doctor and Yaz is a really lovely thing to revisit. One of the things Mandip and I used to love on Doctor Who was getting in, doing a new adventure and meeting a brand new cast. I just can't wait to step back into the boots, pull on the coat and get cracking. One thing's for sure, it's going to be brilliant." Mandip Gill added, "Doctor Who has been a huge part of my career and personal life, and I'm looking forward to seeing how I can further enrich my character through this exhilarating series. To be able to work with Jodie again is a dream come true. We have such a special friendship. I'm sure the recordings will be filled with laughter." Big Finish chairman Jason Haig Ellery said, "This year, Big Finish is celebrating its 25th anniversary of producing a full-cast audio Doctor Who drama, so when we were granted the license to create new stories set during the 13th Doctor's era, we immediately set to work. I am delighted that the inimitable Jodie and Mandip have decided to return to their roles with us, and I'm excited to welcome them to Big Finish, alongside our two other forthcoming series for the Fugitive Doctor and The Master. 2025 has never looked brighter for the 13th Doctor and her fam." So yeah, starting from July 2025, we're going to be getting hour-long 13th Doctor audio dramas every couple of months up until May 2027. I'm assuming that a big chunk of these have already been recorded, and maybe the ones on the back end, maybe the last 3 or 4, 5 or 6 or whatever, are maybe still in the writing process, and maybe that Jodie and Mandip will come back for more recording sessions. However, this is pretty exciting news. We have, of course, had multiple returning Doctors from the revival of Doctor Who, notably John Hurt, David Tennant, Christopher Eccleston as well a few years ago, but this is a pretty exciting turnaround because Jodie Whittaker stopped being the Doctor around 2 years ago, and she's already coming back for Big Finish audio dramas. For David Tennant, it took quite a few more years for him to come back as the 10th Doctor. Christopher Eccleston, it took, 14 years? 15 years for him to come back? Obviously, we don't know anything about stories, writing credits, or just who these box sets are going to be revolving around in terms of a supporting cast or returning villains or anything. We do know that one of the producers of this is the the producer of the latest Missy box set and also a writer of a War Doctor Begins story, Noga Fleischman. However, it seems like we've had a bit of a monkey's paw take place in terms of 13th Doctor audio dramas for Big Finish. I know that a lot of 13th Doctor fans or fans who joined the show during the 13th Doctor's era tend to lean on the more socially progressive side, and we have somebody here who's producing these box sets who on their social media at least is an outright Zionist and has said some pretty deplorable things on social media. So yeah, the monkey's paw curls. It's an interesting observation, because I think the upcoming 13th Doctor adventures will be a big jumping on point for many revived series fans of Doctor Who to get into Big Finish, to get into the expanded medium of Doctor Who. I think it's a good time now to sort of like adjust expectations and let you folks know kind of what you can expect when it comes to a revived series Doctor when they come to Big Finish. So Big Finish can sometimes have a bit of a dartboard approach when it comes to the characters that they have in their box sets and their stories. Like I mentioned earlier, for Once and Future, we have, the 6th Doctor with an older Harry Sullivan at unit, with Jackie Tyler and Lady Christina for this strange Diamond Anniversary special. Sometimes it can be a little bit like that, but I do await the inevitable reunion of the 13th Doctor and Jackie Tyler. However, when it comes to recent revived series Doctors, like I know we've had the 11th and 12th Doctor, but they've mainly been voiced by Jacob Dudman. So just for this video, we'll talk about Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant. Many of their first appearances were relatively standalone and didn't really have much to do with like returning companions and returning villains. Like Ravagers is a completely standalone story. You've got Respond to All Calls, which is this trilogy of really strange, fun, abstract sci-fi stories. And then when you get Lost Warriors, we have the Cybermen here. And then in Lost Warriors and Old Friends, we get the Cybermen. With the latter, we get the Brigadier, played by John Coleshaw. And then we get some more standalone stories. In Into the Stars, we get the Sontarans. In Hidden Depths, we get the Sea Devils, and also Big Finish companions Liv and Tanya. In Pioneers, we have a sequel to The Green Death of all stories, where Boss is a returning villain. Travel in Hope is an Ice Warrior story. With the 9th Doctor returning for Big Finish, there were a lot of villains, a lot of species and aliens and characters that the 9th Doctor just never really encountered before, so Big Finish spent a lot of time sort of correcting the record there, saying he did have an adventure with the Sontarans, with the Ice Warriors, with Boss, with all these other characters, etc, etc. Whereas with David Tennant, because he already encountered the Daleks, he already encountered the Cybermen and Davros and stuff, there's not as much reliance on continuity with him. There was a 10th Doctor and Rose story with the Ice Warriors called Cold Vengeance. There's a 10th Doctor, Donna and Jadoon story. However, when the pandemic happened and David Tennant block recorded a bunch of Big Finish audio dramas, they leaned heavily in the connections to other characters. He did a multi-Doctor trilogy with the 4th, 5th and 6th Doctor. He did a box set with River Song. He did Dalek Universe, which is a sequel to a 4th Doctor series from Big Finish, and also acts as a sort of like modern day remake of the Daleks Master Plan. And we have Davros, played by Terry Malloy. We've got River Song here as well. He also guest starred in a War Master box set starring Derek Jacobi. There's 10th Doctor Classic Companions, and then he's got that appearance for Once and Future. So what does this tell us about what Big Finish could be doing with the 13th Doctor and Yaz moving forward? Well, firstly, I think the first couple of box sets will be relatively standalone, and they'll just be solid stories that will introduce prospective new listeners to the audio medium. They're going to assume that the 13th Doctor fan who is listening to these stories are going to be listening to Big Finish possibly for the first time. So some pretty basic 13th Doctor and Yaz stories, and then maybe as they go along, they'll start introducing stuff not necessarily from the TV series, but from Big Finish's back catalogue. For example, with Christopher Eccleston, he's had some box sets with some Big Finish companions or some expanded medium companions like Bernie Summerfield. His most recent one is a box set with River Song. However, while the 9th Doctor has had box sets with 3 stories apiece in each of them, these ones are going to be single hour-long stories, which is good in regards to accessibility. It means that they'll be a lot cheaper for prospective new fans to be able to dip in and out of, but it also means that it can kind of limit the stories that they can tell. For example, for the 9th Doctor and River Song story, Starcrossed, that's a terrific trilogy where it kind of depicts the start, the middle, and the end of a relationship. Respond to All Calls, which is another top-tier 9th Doctor box set, has 3 incredibly diverse and eclectic stories for the 9th Doctor, and you'll lose that variety in regards to these standalone releases. However, another thing that could benefit Big Finish in regards to the production of these stories moving forward is that because these typically take 1 day to record, you get the cast in for an hour, and it typically takes a day to record a 1-hour Big Finish story. It means that you could possibly have really great guest actors like John Bishop, like Tosin Cole, like Bradley Walsh, who might not be able to commit minutes to multiple days of recording. So while I'm sure the first few stories will just be the 13th Doctor and Yasmin Khan, you may get characters like Dan, like Ryan, Graham, possibly some other 13th Doctor supporting characters. Maybe they meet Nikola Tesla again, maybe the Fugitive Doctor turns up, or maybe the Master, or maybe even a multi-Doctor story with the 9th or 10th Doctor. Though if it is the 10th Doctor, I cannot wait for the discourse where David Tennant is way bigger on the cover than Jodie Whittaker is, despite this being her release. I cannot wait for that discourse and that discussion to start all up again. However, looking back on the 13th Doctor's era, despite her having like a shorter episode count than many other Doctors, she still did encounter a lot of recurring villains like the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Weeping Angels, the Sontaran, the Master, etc. So I think we're going to be avoiding those characters for the most part in this initial range. If the 13th Doctor does encounter the Daleks in this range, it will likely be a story featuring Terry Malloy as Davros. For example, they'll throw in another spin. It won't just be the 13th Doctor versus the Daleks. They'll have another element to it, I'm sure. Later on in the range, she'll likely encounter some Big Finish original characters like the 9th Doctor did with Liv and Tanya, like other Doctors have met Bernie Summerfield, who is from the Virgin New Adventures but has really found a new home at Big Finish. Maybe characters like the Doctor's daughter or River Song, characters who started in the TV show but have got their new sequels and their new ranges with Big Finish. Like I said, I'm just adjusting expectations here. Expect the first few stories in this range to be relatively bare bones affairs. Maybe it'd be really cool to get a writer like Vinay Patel to do a pseudo sequel to Demons of the Punjab featuring the 13th Doctor and Yaz. I think that would be really cool. And then later on, they'll probably dive deeper into the continuity, not necessarily of Doctor Who the TV show, but Doctor Who by Big Finish, you know, like Bernie Summerfield and characters like that. Because what Big Finish tend to do is that once they've got you in with the 13th Doctor that you know and love, then they'll bring in broader aspects of the expanded universe in the hopes that you'll check out other box sets and other ranges from other creatives. So it's looking set to be an exciting year with Big Finish Productions, and I'm going to be following it every step of the way. So like I said, if you want to be up to date with upcoming Big Finish news and reviews and such, be sure to subscribe. Like I said, hit the like button, leave a comment down below what you want from the upcoming 13th Doctor's era. I know there's been a lot of talk of the 13th Doctor having her own, like, renewal, like the 6th Doctor did, a Doctor who, typically speaking, was not really that popular or was sort of let down on the TV show, and then when he came to the audio medium with Big Finish, he found a new lease on life, and now he's like a fan favourite Doctor, and a lot of course correction was done post hoc for the 6th Doctor by Big Finish, so I know a lot of fans might be expecting that to happen with the 13th Doctor, but if that does happen, I think it's going to be a slow and gradual process, because Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor will be used to bring new fans into Big Finish, and then they can start expanding and experimenting with the character a lot more. But anyway, I'm repeating myself now. I'm very tired. Folks, love you all, take care, and I'll see you all next time.